The painful truth. Eleanor Matthews traced her fingers along the edge of the positive pregnancy test, her heart a conflicted mess of joy and apprehension. The morning light filtered through the curtains of her modest apartment. Not the spacious Westlake mansion she had shared with her husband James until 3 weeks ago, when he had suggested they take some space. Just temporary, he had assured her, his hazel eyes not quite meeting hers. The Riverview project is consuming all my energy. You deserve better than a ghost of a husband. Eleanor placed the test on the bathroom counter and exhaled slowly. At 34, she had almost given up on becoming a mother. Now, when her marriage seemed to be crumbling beneath her feet, life had decided to grant her deepest wish. Her phone chimed with a text from Beatrice, her closest friend and colleague at the community art therapy center where Eleanor worked. "Did you take it? Call me!" Instead of calling, Eleanor grabbed her coat. She needed to tell James first. Whatever issues they were having, this news would surely bring them back together. They had always talked about having children, even during their whirlwind courtship 3 years ago. She drove to the Matthews Development headquarters downtown, rehearsing what she would say. The receptionist, Penny, looked surprised to see her. "Eleanor!" "Lovely to see you." Her smile seemed strained. "James is in a meeting with the Riverview investors." "I'll wait," Eleanor replied, settling into one of the leather chairs in the reception area. She noticed Penny exchanging glances with another assistant. After 40 minutes, Eleanor's patience waned. She approached Penny again. "How much longer do you think he'll be?" "I'm not sure," Penny admitted. "The meeting moved to lunch at Bellini's. I thought someone would have told you." Eleanor nodded, masking her disappointment. "I'll try him there. Thank you." Bellini's was James's favorite restaurant, an upscale Italian place where they had celebrated their engagement. As Eleanor approached the entrance, she caught sight of James through the window. He was seated at their usual corner table, but not with investors. Across from him sat Camille Donovan, his marketing director, a woman Eleanor had always felt slightly uneasy around. Camille was leaning forward, her perfectly manicured hand resting on James's. Their faces were close, intimate in a way that made Eleanor's stomach twist. She stood frozen on the sidewalk, watching as James brought Camille's hand to his lips. The gesture was so tender, so familiar, that Eleanor felt as though she'd been struck. A waiter passed by, momentarily blocking her view. When Eleanor could see again, James was sliding a small velvet box across the table. Camille opened it, her expression transforming into radiant delight. She slipped something onto her finger, something that caught the light with unmistakable brilliance. Eleanor retreated, bumping into a passerby who muttered an irritated, "Watch it." She stumbled back to her car, her vision blurred with tears that refused to fall. At home, she moved mechanically, opening her laptop and logging into their shared cloud storage to search for the prenuptial agreement. Instead, she found a folder labeled Riverview Confidential. Curiosity pushed through her shock, and she clicked it open. Inside were not just project files, but personal emails between James and Camille dating back 18 months. Long, intimate exchanges that revealed their affair had begun shortly after Camille joined the company. There were also documents showing financial transactions, large sums being diverted from company accounts to a separate holding corporation with Camille listed as beneficiary. Eleanor's phone rang. James. "Eleanor," he began without preamble, his voice carefully controlled. "We need to talk. I'll be coming by your apartment tomorrow." "I saw you," she said, her voice steadier than she expected. "At Bellini's, with Camille." A heavy silence stretched between them. "I was going to tell you tomorrow," he finally said. "I've been trying to find the right way." "And what exactly were you going to tell me, James?" "That you're having an affair with your marketing director? That you just proposed to her? Or that you're embezzling from your own company?" His sharp intake of breath confirmed she had hit a nerve. "What files did you look at?" "Enough," Eleanor whispered, her hand instinctively moving to her still flat stomach. "More than enough." When James spoke again, his voice had hardened. "I'll have my lawyers contact you. In the meantime, don't access any more company files." The line went dead, Eleanor sat motionless, the pregnancy test still on the counter, her future suddenly as blank and uncertain as a canvas waiting for the first stroke of paint. Locked out. 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal documents and unanswered calls. Eleanor's attorney, Diane Winters, had been blunt. James was pushing for a quick divorce, offering a settlement that, while generous, required Eleanor to sign a confidentiality agreement about the company's finances. "He's worried about what you saw in those files," Diane explained. "That gives us leverage." Eleanor barely registered these discussions. Her pregnancy occupied her thoughts, morning sickness that lasted all day, the first ultrasound scheduled for next week, and the growing realization that she would likely face parenthood alone. On a crisp Saturday evening, Eleanor received a text from Beatrice that made her blood run cold. "Are you seeing this? James and Camille's wedding announcement is all over social media. They're getting married tonight at your house." The Westlake house attached was a screenshot of an elegant invitation. The ceremony was scheduled for sunset at the Matthews estate, the home Eleanor had helped design, where her gardening tools still hung in the greenhouse and her clothes still filled half the master closet. "This can't be happening," Eleanor whispered, gripping the edge of her kitchen counter. Before she could think clearly, she was in her car driving the familiar route to Westlake. She needed to see it with her own eyes to confirm this wasn't some elaborate misunderstanding. As she approached the estate's iron gates, Eleanor's heart sank. The long driveway was lined with luminaries and cars filled the circular drive. Security guards stood at the entrance, new additions since she had left. Eleanor parked along the street and approached on foot. "I'm Eleanor Matthews," she told the stern-faced guard. "This is my home." The guard consulted a tablet. "I'm sorry, ma'am. You're not on the guest list. You don't understand. I'm James's wife." His expression didn't change. Mr. Matthews gave specific instructions. "No one without an invitation is permitted entry." Eleanor stepped back, humiliation washing over her. Through the gates, she could see white chairs arranged on the lawn where she had once planted wildflowers. Caterers bustled around tables draped in silk. String lights twinkled in the trees she and James had selected together when they first purchased the property. "Quite the spectacle, isn't it?" Eleanor turned to find a man watching her with a sardonic expression. Something about his features seemed vaguely familiar. "Oliver Matthews," he introduced himself, extending a hand. "The black sheep brother. And you must be Eleanor, James's brother?" Eleanor had heard James mention Oliver only in passing, usually in the context of family disagreements. The very same. Oliver's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Not invited to the festivities either, I see." "I didn't know James was in contact with you." "He's not." Oliver's gaze returned to the estate. "I make it my business to keep tabs on my brother's indiscretions. When I heard he was remarrying before his divorce was final, I had to see for myself." A flash of movement caught Eleanor's attention. Through the gates, she glimpsed James in a tuxedo, laughing with a group of guests. The sight sent a sharp pain through her chest. "You shouldn't be here," Oliver said gently. "This is cruel, even for James." Eleanor pressed a hand to her abdomen, suddenly aware of how vulnerable she was standing there. "I had to know if it was real." "It's real, but it won't last." Oliver's tone was matter-of-fact. "My brother is making a mistake he'll recognize too late. Come on, I'll buy you dinner. You look like you could use a friend right now." At a quiet restaurant miles from Westlake, Eleanor found herself sharing her story with this stranger who was somehow family. Oliver listened without interruption, his expression darkening when she mentioned the financial documents. "James has always cut corners," Oliver said finally. "But this sounds like something more. Camille must have quite a hold on him." "I don't understand how everything changed so quickly," Eleanor confessed. 3 months ago we were talking about starting a family, and now—" Her voice trailed off. Oliver studied her. "You're pregnant, aren't you?" Eleanor's startled expression answered his question. "James doesn't know," Oliver guessed. "No, I found out the day I discovered the affair." Eleanor twisted her wedding ring, which she still hadn't removed. "I haven't told anyone except my friend Beatrice." Oliver was quiet for a moment. My brother doesn't deserve you or this child. But that baby deserves both parents, if possible. He pulled out a business card. I own a security consulting firm. If James is involved in something illegal, I can help you navigate it safely, for your sake and the baby's. As Eleanor took the card, she felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks. A small flicker of hope that perhaps she wasn't entirely alone after all. The veil lifts. James Matthews stared at the quarterly reports with growing concern. 3 months into his marriage with Camille, and the Riverview project was hemorrhaging money. Investors were becoming restless, and his financial controller had flagged several unauthorized transfers. These withdrawals to Stone Harbor Holdings, James said, pointing to the statements spread across his desk. I never approved them. Camille lounged on the office sofa, scrolling through her phone. Richard handled those. Something about restructuring project costs to optimize tax benefits. Richard doesn't make those decisions without consulting me. James snapped. Darling, you've been so busy with the new development in Brookside. I told him you'd signed off. Camille approached, massaging his shoulders. You work too hard. We should go to Fiji next month. That villa I showed you is still available. James shrugged away her touch. We can't go anywhere until Riverview is back on track. And I want to know exactly where this money went. Camille's smile tightened. You don't trust me? It's not about trust. It's about proper business procedures. Of course, she replied smoothly. I'll have Richard prepare a complete report. Later that evening, James overheard Camille arguing on the phone in their home office. He's asking questions. No, I can handle him. The divorce isn't finalized yet, so technically she could still cause problems. Yes, I know what's at stake. James retreated silently, a knot forming in his stomach. For the first time, he wondered if he had made a catastrophic mistake. Across town, Eleanor sat in her new studio apartment, reviewing designs for the community center's expanded art therapy wing. At 5 months pregnant, she had thrown herself into her work, using the settlement money from James to fund new programs for at-risk youth. Oliver had become a regular presence in her life, first as an investigator helping her understand the extent of James's financial improprieties, then as a friend offering practical support as her pregnancy progressed. You should eat, Oliver said, placing a container of soup beside her laptop. Doctor's orders. Eleanor smiled gratefully. You talked to Dr. Wilson? I might have called to ask about proper nutrition for stubborn pregnant women who work too much. That's overstepping, Eleanor protested, though without heat. Someone needs to look out for you and little Bumpy. Oliver had nicknamed the baby after seeing the first ultrasound. Eleanor's phone buzzed with an email alert. It's from Diane. She quickly scanned the message. James is contesting some of the divorce terms. He wants another meeting, Oliver frowned. After rushing you through everything, now he wants to slow down. Apparently? Eleanor rubbed her growing belly. Diane thinks something's wrong with the company. She's heard rumors about investors pulling out of Riverview. My sources say the same, Oliver confirmed. The project is imploding, and there are whispers about financial irregularities. Camille's name keeps coming up. Eleanor closed her laptop. I almost feel sorry for him. Don't, Oliver warned. James made his choices, I know. But sometimes I remember the man I married. How excited he was when we bought the Westlake house. How he used to bring me coffee every morning. She shook her head. I wonder what happened to that person. He's still in there somewhere, Oliver said quietly, buried under ambition and Camille's influence. The next day, Eleanor arrived at her attorney's office to find James already waiting. He looked haggard. The confident businessman replaced by someone more vulnerable, more human. His eyes widened at the sight of her pregnancy. Eleanor, hello, James. When did... He seemed unable to form a complete sentence. I'm due in 4 months, she said calmly. I found out the day I saw you with Camille at Bellini's. James sank into a chair, his face ashen. Why didn't you tell me? You were rather busy getting married, Eleanor replied, and threatening me with lawyers. Before James could respond, Diane entered with her paralegal. Shall we begin? Mr. Matthews, I understand you have concerns about the settlement agreement. Throughout the meeting, James kept glancing at Eleanor's belly, distracted and visibly shaken. When Diane presented revised terms, he signed without negotiation. As they prepared to leave, James caught Eleanor's arm. "Can we talk? Privately? I don't think that's a good idea." "Please," he whispered. "It's important." Eleanor hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. In Diane's empty conference room, James paced nervously. "I've made terrible mistakes," he began. "With the company, with us, with everything." "Are you looking for absolution, James?" "No." He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "I'm looking for a way forward. The company is in trouble. Camille and her associates, they've been moving money offshore. When I confronted her, she threatened to implicate me. And now you want my help?" Eleanor asked incredulously. James's eyes, when they met hers, were filled with genuine remorse. "I want a chance to be a father to our child, and I want to make things right, if it's not too late." Revelations and regrets. The federal investigation into Matthew's development became public knowledge on a rainy Tuesday in April. Eleanor, now 7 months pregnant, watched the news coverage from her apartment, a strange sense of vindication mingling with sadness as James's company headquarters was shown, with agents carrying boxes of documents. Oliver arrived with dinner, his expression grim. "They've arrested Richard Klein, the financial controller. Camille fled the country last night. And James? Cooperating with authorities. My sources say he's the one who tipped them off." Oliver set the food containers on the coffee table. "He's trying to salvage what he can." Eleanor rubbed her lower back, feeling the baby kick vigorously. "I never thought it would come to this." "You warned him about those files months ago," Oliver reminded her. "He chose not to listen." "Because he was under Camille's spell," Eleanor sighed. "I keep thinking about what he said at Diane's office, that he wanted to make things right." Oliver studied her carefully. "You're not considering taking him back?" "No," Eleanor said firmly. "But this baby deserves to know their father, and James deserves a chance to be part of their life, if he's genuine about making amends." 3 days later, James requested a meeting at Eleanor's apartment. She agreed, with Oliver insisting on being present. James arrived looking exhausted, but more like himself than Eleanor had seen in months. His eyes were clear, his shoulders unburdened. "Thank you for seeing me," he began, nodding awkwardly at Oliver. "I've been working with the FBI to unravel Camille's network." She and her partners had been targeting businesses for years, romantic entanglements leading to financial exploitation. "And you were the perfect mark," Oliver observed coldly. James accepted the jab without protest. "I was. My ego made me vulnerable. She knew exactly how to manipulate me, playing to my ambitions, my insecurities." He turned to Eleanor. "I betrayed everything we built together. There's no excuse for how I treated you." "Why now, James?" Eleanor asked. "Why the sudden clarity?" "It wasn't sudden," he admitted. "Seeing you at Diane's office, pregnant with our child, it broke through whatever fog I was in. I started investigating Camille that same day. When I found evidence connecting her to similar schemes with other executives, I knew I'd been played." He paused. "But that doesn't erase what I did to you. I'm not asking for reconciliation, Eleanor. I just want a chance to be a father to our baby." Eleanor exchanged glances with Oliver, who remained expressionless. "I've lost the company," James continued. "Most of our assets are frozen during the investigation. The Westlake house will probably be sold to repay investors. I'm starting over completely." "And Camille?" Eleanor asked. "Interpol is tracking her. She's facing multiple fraud charges when they find her." James leaned forward earnestly. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I'm hoping you'll allow me to be present when our child is born. To be part of their life in whatever way you feel is appropriate." Eleanor felt the baby move, a gentle reminder of the new life depending on her decisions. "I need time to think about this, James. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight." "I understand." James stood to leave. "I've rented an apartment downtown. I'll be there whenever you're ready to talk again." At the door, he paused. "I never stopped loving you, Eleanor. I just lost sight of what that meant." After he left, Oliver broke his silence. "Do you believe him?" Eleanor moved to the window, watching James walk to his car. Not the luxury sedan he once drove, but a modest compact. "I believe he regrets what happened. Whether that's enough, I don't know yet." "He hurt you," Oliver reminded her. Deeply? Yes, Eleanor acknowledged. But people can change when forced to confront their mistakes. I've changed too. She turned to face Oliver. You've been my rock these past months. I couldn't have managed without you. Oliver's expression softened. I'll always be here for you and Bumpy, regardless of what happens with James. As the weeks passed, James proved his commitment through consistent, respectful actions, attending prenatal appointments when invited, helping Eleanor prepare the nursery, and continuing to cooperate with authorities to make restitution to his investors. When Eleanor went into labor 3 weeks early, both James and Oliver were at the hospital, maintaining an uneasy truce for her sake. Holding her newborn daughter, Lily and Grace, Eleanor finally understood that forgiveness wasn't about erasing the past, but about creating space for a different future. Bridges rebuilt, Lily, be careful on those steps, Eleanor called out to her daughter, who was ascending the playground equipment with typical 3-year-old fearlessness. I've got her, James assured her, hovering protectively nearby as Lillian navigated the challenge. Eleanor smiled, adjusting her sunglasses against the bright afternoon sun. These weekend park visits had become their routine, a neutral ground where they could co-parent comfortably after 3 years of gradual healing and cautious rebuilding. James had kept every promise made during those dark days of revelation. He had testified against Camille and her associates, helping authorities recover millions in stolen funds. He had rebuilt his career from scratch, starting a smaller, ethically focused development company specializing in affordable housing projects. Most importantly, he had been a devoted father to Lillian, never missing a scheduled visit, always respectful of the boundaries Eleanor established. She's getting so brave, Oliver commented, joining Eleanor on the bench. Though Eleanor and James had established a functional co-parenting relationship, Oliver remained a constant in their lives. Uncle Ollie to Lillian and a trusted friend to Eleanor. Too brave sometimes, Eleanor replied. She gets that from her father. Oliver watched as James guided Lillian down a slide, their matching laughs carrying across the playground. He's come a long way. We all have. It hadn't been an easy journey. The first year after Lillian's birth had been particularly challenging, navigating custody arrangements while James worked to clear his name and Eleanor established her expanding art therapy center. There had been moments of tension, setbacks in trust, and difficult conversations about their past and future. But gradually, imperceptibly, something new had emerged from the ashes of their marriage. Not romance, but a partnership built on mutual respect and shared purpose in raising their daughter. "Mommy, look!" Lillian called, waving from the top of the play structure, James's steadying hand on her back. Eleanor waved back, her heart full. "I see you, sweetheart." After the playground, they walked to a nearby cafe, another part of their weekend ritual. As Lillian colored with crayons provided by the waitress, James cleared his throat. "I wanted to talk to you both about something," he began, looking between Eleanor and Oliver. "The Northside Community Project has been approved. We'll be breaking ground next month." "That's wonderful news," Eleanor said sincerely. The project, which included affordable housing units and a community center with dedicated space for Eleanor's art therapy programs, represented everything James had been working toward in his professional redemption. "I couldn't have done it without your input on the community center design," James acknowledged. The investors were particularly impressed with the integrated approach to support services. Oliver raised his coffee cup. "Congratulations. It's a far cry from Riverview." "In every possible way," James agreed. "Which brings me to something else I wanted to discuss." He hesitated. "I've been offered a partnership with a development firm in Seattle. It would be a significant opportunity, but it would mean moving," Eleanor finished for him, immediately understanding the implications for their co-parenting arrangement. James nodded. "I haven't accepted yet. Lily comes first, and our current arrangement works well. I won't disrupt that unless we can find a solution that works for everyone." Eleanor felt a complicated mix of emotions, pride in James's professional rehabilitation, concern about Lillian's relationship with her father, and an unexpected pang at the thought of James leaving. "You should consider it," she said finally. "We can figure out a new arrangement. Maybe longer visits during school breaks, regular video calls. I appreciate that, James replied, clearly relieved. But I wanted to suggest an alternative. The Seattle firm is looking to expand their East Coast operations. If the Northside project succeeds, they might be interested in establishing a branch here, with me heading it. That would be ideal, Eleanor admitted. As Lillian finished her hot chocolate, leaving a milk mustache that James gently wiped away, Eleanor reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. The betrayal that had once seemed insurmountable had ultimately led them all to grow in unexpected ways. Later that evening, after James had dropped them at home and Lillian was asleep, Eleanor sat on her balcony with Oliver, sharing a bottle of wine. "Did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" she asked. "3 years ago, when you found me outside those gates?" Oliver shook his head. "Never. I thought James was beyond redemption." "So did I," Eleanor admitted. "But people can surprise you. Do you ever regret not reconciling with him romantically?" Oliver asked carefully. It was a question they had never directly addressed. Eleanor considered this. "No," she said finally. "What we have now is healthier than what we had before. We're better as co-parents than we ever were as husband and wife." She turned to face him. "Besides, that chapter of my life is closed. I'm ready for new beginnings." Oliver's expression softened. "I've been waiting a long time to hear that." Eleanor smiled, reaching for his hand. "I know. Thank you for your patience." As they sat in comfortable silence, Eleanor thought about the different forms love could take, the fierce, protective love she felt for Lillian, the complex, evolved love she shared with James as Lillian's father, and this steady, gradual love that had grown between her and Oliver, built on friendship and unwavering support. The painful truth she had discovered that day at Bellini's had set in motion a journey she could never have anticipated. Through the darkness of betrayal, the confusion of pregnancy, and the challenge of forgiveness, Eleanor had found her way to a life richer and more authentic than the one she had lost. Sometimes, she reflected, what appears to be an ending is merely the difficult beginning of a better story.